Well, another week, another over under, another would you rather coming
And
at
I
you.
actually am prepared this
Oh,
week.
look at you. I've
Yeah,
been thinking about I have players and this today was pretty busy, so I didn't get to like prepare as
yeah, yeah. I just finished
much.
today.
So I've got all the stats looking at me, but you want to get the first line out here?
Let's do it, man. Let's get this game going. You know what I mean? I'm gonna go ahead and go first this time. Uh,
Oh, wow.
well, see, I let you go first last time. I remembered, so I really want to go first this time because I don't want you to steal this one because I want to give you a would you rather,
Okay.
and I feel like you were gonna steal this because we know Bob is our guy. If you've listened to this show, Bob's our guy, whether we were chirping him or whether we were praising him. Bob's kind of the mascot, if you will, of the BarnChirpers.
That's true.
So, Justin, remember, Bob has 3 years left at $10 million. Okay,
Cool.
just want to throw that out there. Okay, all right. So, would you rather, as the fantasy general manager of the Florida Panthers, would you rather have Bob have a Vezina class season once again, but the Cats are going to lose in the Stanley Cup finals again? Or
Okay.
Bob is Bob and the Cats miss the playoffs completely. And remember, the caveat is he still has 3 more years at $10 million.
You know what? We talk about this all the time. Give me the cup final appearance. Again, they didn't get it done this year. And they got they got worked, but they made it. They made it. You can't take that away from them. And if you have Bob playing great, I just paid you a lot of money to play great. So, I mean, worst case scenario is a wash. The season's a wash. You made it. He made it to the cup finals again. You lose, but you got there again. You were good enough to get there again. And so that's like what, 3 straight seasons: President's Cup, Cup finals, Cup finals. Yeah, I'll take a Cup finals appearance.
I agree with you because, again, you have 3 more years at $10 million. That's a really hard contract to offload no matter who you are, but especially a goaltender up in age, even though we talked about how well he performed this past season, right, and came back to like Bob of old. But, yeah, a goalie is hard to offload no matter what.
Yeah.
But a 3-year, $10 million ticket – ooh, that's going to have a lot of teams not wanting that. So I agree. I would rather get to the Cup finals again, be real close to tasting that champagne out of the cup, but you messed up, rather than, wow, we just had a terrible turnaround, much like the Montreal Canadiens that we'll talk about later on in this show. I agree with you. I'd much rather Bob performs like a $10 million goalie.
So, yeah. I hate to stick with the goalies, but that's who we are, right? Like,
we're
played,
goalie guys.
You played, but I have just always been drawn towards goalies. And the Cats have an interesting goalie situation last year because towards the end of the year, Lyon was their guy. Throughout the year, it's split between Bob and Spencer Knight, but Lyon kind of emerged as the goalie, and now he's gone. So it looks like you still have Bob and Spencer Knight going forward, right?
Correct.
So very similar question, but this is going to be involving the remaining 2 goalies. Would you rather Bob take the majority of the starts and play well, not necessarily Vezina, play well, and you get into the playoffs? Or would you rather Bob dumps all over himself and concedes the net to Spencer Knight, and you guys end up winning the cup?
Oh, I mean, well, again, this shows how much alike that we are because I had a very similar question involving those two that I had an option of asking you. I mean, simply put, you always go with the cup. I mean,
Right.
There's the conversation later when we get a man up is actually going to revolve around the cup sort of as well. And a conversation I just had, conversation, I say that in quotations, about why guys in the NHL play hockey. It's to win the cup. That is literally the only reason to play hockey, is to win the Stanley Cup. So yeah, that sucks if Bob ends up totally, dismantling. And again, we have 3 more years at $10 million. We'll probably say that a couple more times in the show. But yeah, I mean, a young goalie who also had to go to rehab this year. So he comes back out of that dark place to be an amazing goaltender, and you guys win the cup. I'm going with that 100% every time.
It's a great story. And I mean, look, I agree with you, obviously, because cup wins,
Always.
But there always is that, man, we just paid a guy 10 mil to literally crap himself.
But even to that same point, up until this past playoffs, they already knew that they were in that hole, if you will. We've talked about it on the show. It's Bobrovsky. We're just wasting this $10 million ticket for a guy that, has performed mediocre at best since coming over, So that's something else we'll say. Take a drink every time we say mediocre at best today on the show.
Yeah.
But I feel like, again, it's just being, that's what we expect. So anything better than that is great for Bob. And again, not trying to crap on him anymore right now, because he at least proved to me that he can be that guy again, and I hope he does. But yeah, again, cup always the cup.
Well, and I should reiterate, really the only question is, are you paying the 10 mil for a good goalie and missing the playoffs? But nah, man, you take the cup always. So
okay, Justin, so I'm going to hit you with we've talked a little bit on the show frequently about goals for and goals against that a team had. So last year the Florida Panthers had 290 goals for and 273 goals against, as you would say. And that, you know what? I didn't get the actual stat of where that left them in the league, but they were top 10 in the league with that, right? So, Justin, over or under 300 goals for this year for the Florida Panthers?
You did come prepared. My gosh. Let's
break it down. Who's on the roster,
right?
Who's injured and not going to be starting the season? Lomberg, Montour, Ekblad, Kachuk, to name 4 of your big scorers.
Yeah.
Duclair's gone.
Yeah, you lost Duclair. Who else? You lost somebody else.
I can't think off the top of my head, but OEL came in, but
Goody's in
Goody got
in Anaheim.
Goody wasn't necessarily a scorer, but
right, a player you lost. So
great defenseman though, so that could matter with goals against.
Yeah, for sure. It was 300 goals for, right? That was the question.
Yeah, they had 290 last season, so I said 300 goals for, over under.
All right. I'm going to go under, because it's hard to imagine that with the injuries, as you already mentioned, that they're going to do better than they did last year, right? I think it's possible that it's a push, but as you mentioned, we can't last week. You can't really go push. I think it's possible they do the same, but for the interest of this conversation and the thought experiment, I'm going to go just under 280. I'll go 280.
Yeah, I would love to see the over or see the actual number, but same thing. It's kind of up in the air of who's going to be on the ice when the season starts. The first quarter, really, of the season, first 2 to 3 months, is kind of up in the air right now from everything that I've read and seen, and just looking at injury reports and whatnot. some of those guys like Matty Tkachuk is kind of unclear of when he's going to be back, So there's a lot of questions. So they could really be far behind to start the season, the first quarter of the season. Of course, you can always make a comeback like they did, but I think that's why I kind of said I think 300 is a little bit steep. So I am also going to go under, but just barely. So I'm actually going to go better than last year. I'm going to say 295, but still under the 300. Yeah.
Okay. I like it. Do you mind repeating the injuries? I know.
Yeah. Let me pull it up. I know Matt Tkachuk, Matty Tkachuk, Blomberg, Montour, Ekblad, and hold on. Stall, not the brothers. They lost the Stalls too.
Yeah, they did. Good for them.
They may not have an idea.
Did they lose Nick Cousins? I feel like I saw Cousins on the wire.
They might have, but I don't
remember where he went to.
I don't know for sure. Okay. Injuries. Yeah, Aaron Ekblad, Matty Tkachuk, Brandon Montour. I guess a couple of the other guys. E2 Listerinen.
Ooh, okay.
Everybody else, I guess, is cleared. So those four.
So I'll say this: their top 6 point getters last year: Matty Tkachuk, Barkey, Verhaeghe, Montour, Reinhart, Luosterainen. That's the top 6. 3 of those guys are going to be injured. 3 of their top point getters are going to be injured.
Yep.
So that being said, Joe, let's go to the number 2 guy there, the captain, Barkey, Alexander Barkov. Last year, 68 games played, 23 goals, 55 assists for 78 points. This feels like a gimme, but let's get the guy a little sunshine here. Over under 78 points for Barkey next year.
I really do like Barkey. I think he's a great captain by kind of almost being in the shadows. Like nobody ever really talks about him that much. Mm-hmm. I've had him on my fantasy team the last 3 years, however many years we've been doing it. But here's the thing with Alexander Barkov. He has been very injury prone in his career, but specifically in the last 4 seasons, he's been, or excuse me, 3 seasons because of the shortened season in 2020. But so yeah, man, that's really tough. You said 78, right?
Right. That was his point total from last year.
Yeah. Again, I did say just then that the Cats are going to have 5 more goals for the whole year. He's going to have to be a contributing factor in that. So I'm going to throw out what my gut says. My gut says under, but I'm going to go over, but just barely 80 points, I'm going to say.
Okay. I'm in lockstep because he missed 14 games last year. So if he stays on the ice half of that, 7 games, you figure he gets a goal or 2, an assist or 2, and that makes up the, hopefully the points.
Sure. Yeah. I agree.
Up and over for the 78. So I'm with you there. I'm going to go with the over as well.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, again, I hope so. He's just been so injury prone. He's almost like when I'm playing NHL 21 and I get like just barely hit with a check and then I'm laying down on the ice holding my knee. Like, what was that? Or like I win a fight and beat the crap out of a guy and then all of a sudden my hand's broken.
Yes.
Like
shaking your hand and getting taken off the ice.
That's how I feel like Alexander Barkov is sometimes. Sometimes he, finishes his own check and he's hurt. So I'm hoping not. But that's just kind of what the history has shown us. So
that was accidentally an interesting Barkov topic.
Yeah, it kind of was, wasn't it? So something that's not very interesting, I'm just kidding. It's interesting, but let's move on to the Kings of LA. And if you're not a fan of hockey, hockey's much better in LA. So Justin, we've talked about PLD signing a massive contract for a guy that's been mediocre at best.
Yeah.
So continue my chirpathon on guys that are mediocre at best. But I mean, side note on that. Okay, again, like, who am I? I've never played a game in the NHL. So who am I? I'm just a guy talking on a podcast. I get it. Like, sure. My point, though, is with guys making why are we giving these players so much money to do a mediocre, a C- job, a C+ job? It makes no sense to me. I feel like there's a whole lot of, this is a side conversation, obviously. There's a whole lot more that the NHL needs to fix that we've talked about on the show that we can continue to talk about ad nauseum, that we will bring up time and time and time again on this show. There's plenty more that the NHL needs to do to build the game. But with that said, if you didn't pay these mediocre players superstar numbers, there would be more money to spend for your cap. There would be more money to move around in the league instead of paying these certain players that have never had a superstar season, superstar money. And that's just my soapbox. Anyway, did you have anything to put onto that before I move on?
No, man, stated perfectly. We'll get more into that a little bit when
that'll be the power play. Yeah. That'll be when we go man up later on. I'm kind of burying the lead a little bit, but anyway, okay. So back to PLD. So again, just a little reference for you, a little history. PLD has never scored 30 goals in his entire career since 2017. Okay, just so you are aware of that. So Justin makes the move to Los Angeles. We know the rumors and innuendo that, man, he hated Winnipeg. He didn't want to be there anymore. It was a bad playing team or a bad situation for him. So he couldn't be the superstar that he's supposed to be. Whatever. He's in LA now, City of Angels. Over under, Justin. PLD scores 30 goals this year. The closest he's come is 28 in 21-22 in 81 games.
All right, so there's going to be more on this on my over under, but I'm giving you a little headway here. I'm going with the over. I think this is the year he finally does it, because it's funny that's the number that came up last year's top. Well, no, sorry, Kempe had 41 goals, but Kopitar, their leading point getter, and again, more on this in a second, scored 28 exactly. So if he's going to be slotting in somewhere around there, right, is because Kopitar is the captain. I got to imagine he's top line center, right?
Yep.
I mean, I sure hope for the Kings and for him that he's able to finally crack that code and be at least the second leading goal scorer at that measly 30. So it was over under exactly 30 or okay, so I'm going to go over, and I'm going to go just past it, 32.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, every time I'm chirping an NHL player, again, I've never played a game in the NHL, so who am I? Every time I'm saying these chirps, because I would love for you to prove me wrong. Make me eat dirt, whatever the saying is. Like, I would love that, truly. Like, you know what I mean? Show me something as a fan. Like, I don't understand why you're getting paid all this money to do nothing. So I'm going to go with the under, though. I think he's still going to underperform. Again, I hope I'm wrong for $8+ million. I hope it's more, because then you can say you were wrong. Anybody can chirp me at BarnChirpers Pod and say, you were wrong, Joe. Yeah, thank you. I'm going to go with the under, and I'm going to say, ooh, you know what? I'm going to be a real jerk about this. I'm going to go under and say 22.
Wow. Okay.
PLD for $8 million this year is going to score 22 goals.
Oh my God. I took the positive route and what I hope happens, but nothing would make me laugh harder than that because honestly, unfortunately, I think you're right. I hope I am.
Listen, I don't think that it's the club because, bro, you didn't perform in Columbus and you said you wanted out. You wanted to go to Winnipeg. You go to Winnipeg. You didn't perform, and now you want out because it's not a great place for me. And now I'm going to go to LA, and you're going to underperform there too, bro. You're just not good. You're a third line guy. Get out of here. Anyway,
the only thing I'll give it is LA. Generally speaking, I don't know if they've moved on past this. I didn't catch a lot of Kings games last year, admittedly, but I think they have a more up-tempo pace, but hold that thought, Joe, because that leads right into my over-under. That being said, it's supposed to be this up-tempo, this LA is supposed to be fast. Yes. Mm-hmm. Top point getter, as I mentioned, Enze Kopitar with 74. He played all 82 games, 28 goals, 46 assists. Top goal scorer was Adrian Kempe, 41 goals, 26 assists. So their top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 point getters. Kopitar at 74, Fiala at 72, Kempe at 67, Arvidsson at 59, and Danault at 54. You've got a lot of wiggle room here. Over or under top point getter for the Los Angeles Kings next year being 75 points.
That's actually really good. And a side note, those pickups to get Fiala and Arvidsson were top tier moves the last couple of years. I think Kevin Fiala is an awesome player, by the way. 70 over under 75 points for the top point getter. And I think, LA is kind of a fast moving offense. I mean, they had to go to work with the oil, and they were, going back and forth. So they're mm-hmm. pretty high powered, I'd say. I'm just stalling while I think. I'm going to go. I'm going to go over. I'll say over by 5. I'm going to say 80. 80 points for the top point getter.
I like it.
I think it's going to be Kevin Fiala. I think he's going to have a breakout year.
I hope you're right. And I hope it's not PLD. For his sake and for the squad's, I hope it is because you just paid the guy a lot of money. But, dude, a guy like Fiala, I'm glad you keep pointing him out. I love that dude. I don't know what it is about him. I just like the way he plays. I
don't remember exactly. Yeah, I don't remember exactly what I think he might have been contract or whatever the case, but I wish he would have stayed in Minnesota. Like, he had such a great run in Minnesota. While I think I don't necessarily think that they got any worse losing him, but I don't think they necessarily got better for losing him, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that in a second.
So, hold on though. Here's something I wanted to point out about your pick of Kevin Fiala. I think is solid, not only because we both like the player, but his line: 23 goals, 49 assists, 72 points. He missed 13 games last year. He only played 69 games.
Wow. And his line was like scored as many points as the top point getter.
Yeah, he was 2 points behind Kopitar.
Yeah, that's wild.
In 13 less games. No, Joe, it's the Kings.
Well, he was a wild though.
Yes, he was.
That's crazy. Yeah. I think he's a solid player. Like, if I was going to get a Kings jersey, it's between Fiala, and that's really the front runner right now. I mean, Kopitar or Kempe because OGs, but anyway.
Kopitar wears number 11. I like that. I like number 11, but I don't like the Kings jerseys. That's a whole conversation for a different.
That's Gear Freaks. That's Gear Freaks. Like and subscribe, Gear Freaks. That's the channel we're on right now, anyway, right?
That's right. Yeah,
Gear Freaks. Yeah. So anyway, okay, Justin, this one is real simple because No matter what, the Kings are losing. Okay. So would you rather lose to the Edmonton Oilers once again in the first round, or lose to the Vegas Golden Knights in the first round? We're just saying that the same spot, the same LA is gonna get the same spot that they had last year. So they're facing the team right above them in the first round again. Are they going to play the Edmonton Oilers once again and get bounced? Or are they going to play the defending champs, the Vegas Golden Knights, and get bounced in the first round? Which would you prefer?
So it's a, I mean, you can puff out your chest a little, like as best you can in a loss with either of these teams, because either you're losing to the defending champs, right? Which, you know, you can't sneeze at that, or you're losing to arguably the best player in the game in Connor McDavid, right? So like,
two best, yeah.
And Draisaitl, but like you can't. Obviously, you can't puff out your chest for losing in either situation. But I think you got to take the L to the defending champs, right? Like, at least there's a chance that they're going to go on and do something. Whereas Edmonton traditionally, you know, maybe they make it out of the next round, but are going to lose in the Western Conference Finals. So I think I'm going with Vegas here. I think I'd rather lose to Vegas.
I 100% understand what you're saying. I actually would rather lose again to the same team, because to me, it's essentially like, dang, man, like we just can't seem to get past this hurdle in the Edmonton Oilers. But if you get a new team, then you can no longer make the excuse like, we just can't get past the Oilers. Like there's got to be something when we play the Oilers. But now a different team comes in, even though they are the defending champs. And I do agree with what you said. But now it's like, oh, well, I guess it's actually just us.
Yeah, we just can't beat anybody.
We just can't beat anybody. So that's kind of what but I totally not disagreeing with anything you said. I agree with that too. Like, oh, well, I mean, it's defending champs. What are you going to do? But I think for the Kings' sake, yeah, if we're going to lose, like, might as well just be the same team that's bounced us the last 2 years. You know, that's my thought with it.
So we've managed to not talk about goalies at all yet.
I know, that's crazy. Mark that down. That's a first.
Because we're getting to the last question, and I'm doing it because it's a big question mark, right? They dealt Quick off, right? They dealt Quick off initially to Columbus, and then he ends up in Vegas, right?
Yep, correct.
And then Corpy comes over, but he's off in Ottawa now.
Yep, yeah.
So
it was just a rental.
They pick up Corpy for the rest of the year, and then he walks off. So it looks like Copley's the guy. I don't recall whether Peterson remained. I feel like I remember seeing his name on the wire, but I don't. Sorry, I'm not exactly up on the move.
No, you're good. So obviously it's still off season, but the goalies listed on NHL.com: Copley, some guy named Portillo, some guy from Winnipeg, Dave Rittich.
Yes.
The old backup from Rittich. And one guy that we know pretty well, Mr. Cam Talbot.
Oh, wow.
Mr. 7% body fat himself.
Wow, Cam Talbot. I didn't realize he okay. All right, well, that shakes up my question completely. Well,
but essentially he hasn't made the squad. Somebody's got to Rittich is a backup, is generally a backup goalie. Like he's backed up Hellebuck for years. Somebody's getting cut. Somebody's not making the team.
I guess I would have to know, because I would assume that they signed Talbot, right?
I know that I definitely saw that on the wire this offseason that he signed a deal. All
right, so this is how we'll frame it. So you picked up Talbot as a pickup. You sign the guy. Let's say he starts. He has a quality season. Kings make the playoffs, get bounced in the first round to the Edmonton Oilers. That last part not important, but like let's just give them that. Or Copley steps up, has a breakout season, completely wins the job at 31. As much as a 31 player, like he's still got years left. Let's not call him old, but like that's awfully old to just now be stepping up. But he wins the job outright, has a great season, but you miss the playoffs. Which would you rather?
Well, one quick question. Does Cam Talbot get injured like he normally does? Does he pull a groin? Tear an oblique?
Let's say no. Let's say he doesn't. Because
just
way
check.
He's playing most of the season.
Just checking my boxes here. Just checking my boxes here. That's a tough one, truly, because again, you just signed Cam Talbot. But it would be great to have your, he's the youngest, your young goaltender actually do something.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Cam Talbot signed for $1 million, so it's only a $1 million cap hit.
Okay.
And they're both UFAs at the end of the season, by the way. Okay. Yeah, I would rather Copley step up, even though, because that part of it was miss the playoffs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd rather have Copley step up because I think that would at least be a proving ground for him. I mean, he had a pretty good amount of work last season, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, hold on. I got the stats here. 37 games played.
Yeah, so he played majority of the season.
Yeah, 35 games started, 24, 6, and 3 was his record.
Oh, that's pretty dang good, man. Yeah, I'd rather have him have a breakout season and miss the playoffs, just because I think you have more legs on him being around than anybody else. I mean, other than the one kid that I said, Portillo or Porcilio, I don't know how you say it. He's essentially the future backup, you'd think. Those other guys, Rittich and Talbot, like they're just rentals, really.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so yeah, I'd rather have Copley step up, even if you're going to miss. Yeah, I'd rather have that.
Me too, especially if you're just going to lose in the first round anyway. I mean,
yeah, I mean, exactly.
Look,
and I'm looking at Cap Friendly right now, and they have a lot of guys going to be coming off the books at the end of this season. So they have to either sign a whole lot of guys, or we're looking at a new Kings roster anyway.
So that's what I was going to say is at least if Copley steps up, at least you have one of the pieces, because you got to figure if they miss the playoffs, they're probably, and I'm glad to have that piece to it. You're probably looking at the Kings in official rebuild mode next season.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to not, that's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. So this might be their last. I mean, speaking of, like, Drew Doughty is old. Kopitar is old.
Yeah.
Kempe's old.
Yeah.
In playing terms, like they're not actually, like, they're as old as I am. You know what I mean? So
they're younger than me.
Yeah, you know what I mean? In playing terms, though, like their best days are behind them. They're still quality players, but their best days are behind them back in those 2 cup runs. But anyway, yeah, I think yeah, that's all I got for LI.
All right.
Okay, moving on to a team we mentioned a couple times already. Let's get wild, Justin. Let's be wild in Minnesota, my home state, even though I'm not really a true Minnesota Wild fan, but I do appreciate the Wild, of course, because it's my home state. I would like to see them do well. Obviously, the Caps are going to suck for the next 3 to 5. So I might put my passion in. Well, actually, because the Kraken's my West Coast team, so I can't really take on the Wild. I can't take on another West Coast. But anyway, so Justin, see, I don't want to take this away from you because I know he's your boy. I feel like you're going to have a question about Kaprizov. Don't tell me if you do. I'm deciding which one I want to go with here. But you know what? Okay, if you have a Kirill question, I am sorry for stealing it. I know he's your boy. This is a really good question, actually.
Alrighty.
Justin, would you rather, and there's a caveat to the end of this, by the way, get out of the first round finally, or not make the playoffs at all? And the caveat, no matter what you pick, in either scenario, you're going to lose Kirill Kaprizov no matter what.
Oh.
He's gone. So would you rather get out of the first round and lose Kirill, or not make the playoffs at all and lose Kirill?
Man,
Be it trade or he's going to the KHL. Not an injury. I'm not doing that this week. He's just not going to be on the team anymore.
Man, my gut says miss the playoffs because you got to look towards the future, right? Because the unfortunate thing is in the first scenario, if it's, Western Conference Finals or, I feel like maybe or Stanley Cup Finals, I think I lean that way. But like, there's no guarantee past the second round. And while, you want to get there, you want that improvement. What is that going to do for us next year when we lose our best player?
Right.
Man,
and they're in cap hell.
They're in absolute cap hell. So I think you miss the playoffs, unfortunately, and lose the thrill, and hope for some decent draft picks. Hopefully you end up in the lottery or something. Hopefully like you really tank hard.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta agree. I think this goes kind of the same conversation with LA. You can't lose in the first round again. In this case, now the Wild have the longest reigning streak of 8 seasons since Toronto got out of the first round. Whoop-de-doo. So, like, you can't lose in the first round again. I hate to say it, but I would rather they tank and get somewhere in the lottery to get a pick, get a decent pick, because, again, they still have next year is the last season that they'll be paying the buyouts of Parise and why am I blanking on his name right now?
It's right. I am too. I know exactly who you're.
I know who it is. I know what it is, but I can't think of it. Suter. Yeah. So they got next 2 seasons. They got till 25, 26 until it's down to less than $1 million. So they are kind of screwed right now. So I'd rather just tank and get some draft picks. So that's where I'm going with.
All right. So I'm gonna lay some stats on you here, because again, the Wild, they were a very good. If you like hockey, they were a very fun team to watch last year. I really enjoyed watching Minnesota Wild games, and they pushed the Dallas Stars to the limits.
They did
in the playoffs, and arguably the Stars were the second best team in hockey, even though they lost to Vegas.
Yep.
Here's something I didn't know though. We brought up the thrill. Kaprizov only played in 67 games. He was hurt a bit last year. 40 goals, 35 assists, 75 points. Top points getter.
Golly, what a guy!
Matt Zuccarello is your second leading with 11 more games than him. 22 goals, 45 assists, 67 points. And I'm doing this on purpose. Matt Boldy is next. 81 games, 31 goals, 32 assists, 63 points. Eriksson Ek, 78 games, 23 goals, 38 assists, 61 points. Here's the drop off, Joe. At 5th, Freddie Gaudreau played all 82 games, 19 goals, 19 assists, 38 points.
Oh,
that's your 5th leading point getter.
Gross.
So let's set the over under there. Your fifth leading point getter will be over or under 45 points, Joe.
Ugh. Yeah, and didn't I say on this show when we went into the playoffs that I didn't know about Minnesota because they can't score goals?
Mm-hmm.
That is disgusting. I mean, I would actually, if I had the time to go through every single team and look at that top five, I would love to compare that and see where they fall in the league. But that is awful.
61 to 38.
Yeah,
from 4 to 5.
And I'm just looking at I'm looking at the roster right now. Yeah, I mean they don't have, other than the Thrill, like they don't have another. I mean, obviously he's the superstar. They don't have another like a guy to ride shotgun with. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, I know everybody says this when they don't actually hate to say it, but I do not actually want to bring up the Washington Capitals. But like you got Ovi and Backstrom. You know what I mean?
Right.
You got Sid and Malkin. You know what I mean? So anyway, to answer your question, over under, you put it over under 45, right?
Yes. For the fifth leading score point getter.
For the fifth leading point scorer. Oh gosh. Well, I think that, let's see, that put him at, call that 30. I'm just doing some quick math real quick. That put him at 30. So that's 50. So a guy that I'm looking at is Marcus Johansson that came over in a trade from Washington to Minnesota, and he played 20 games for the Wild. And in total, in Washington and in Minnesota, he scored just over 50 points.
Oh,
so
okay.
I think he's with a full season on that team because he played 20 games for the Wild, 18 points in 20 games. Like that's pretty solid numbers. I think he could end up moving up to at least that fifth spot. So I'm going to say over, and I'm going to say 51.
Boy, do I hope we're right. Because
I hope so. Lord, they need it. Jeez.
Yes, they do. I mean, it does. You know, now that I'm actually looking at the numbers, it makes me like, how are you not making moves? Like, they obviously that isn't how they win. They win games with a lot of and we'll get into goaltending here because I definitely have a goaltending question. But
naturally,
they have play with good defense and good goal play.
They're very solid in both of those.
But goal scoring, not so much.
Yeah, so. You can't just much like Edmonton, you can't just rely that you can score a goal in 30 seconds, score two goals in 30 seconds. Like you can't depend on that time and time and time again. Like you're going to lose.
Yeah.
You're definitely not going to win a Stanley Cup by just depending on defense. Like, yeah, okay, you got to have good defense, but you got to score goals. You know what I mean?
So to answer my own question, I'm going to go with the over as well at 45, but I'm going to go just over, and I'm going to go 47 points.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Just for a note, Minnesota was bottom half of the league for goals for last year. Check that out real quick. At 246. Woof. Okay. So I'm going to let you have the goalie question, even though I had one as well, but I think we probably are going to ask the same question. So I'm going to go a different route. Speaking of scoring, speaking of potential superstars on this team, Matt Boldy came on this team in a full season last year. Well, 81 games, but and he came in 21-22, played 47 games. He had 15 goals, 24 assists, 39 points. In 47 games. This last year, 81 games, big jump here, 31 goals, 32 assists, 63 points, Justin. Matt Boldy, over under 75 points next season.
He's young too, 21.
Young kid. He jumped by almost 30 points in one season.
So we only need to get 12 more from him this year. Well, I'm going to go with the over again. For their sake, I hope.
Yes.
For their sake, I hope so. And I'm gonna just eke him out. No, I'll put him at 80 because I figure Kaprizov, if he stays on the ice, he's gonna blow past 80 because he did 75 while missing, what did I say, 15 games?
Yep.
Give him 15 games. That's he was more than a point a game. I'm focusing too much on Kaprizov. But to answer the question, yeah, I think he goes up and over your 75. I'm gonna put him at 77.
Okay. I'm gonna go with the over as well because I would love to continue to see this kid shine. I think he has a bright future in Minnesota. I mean, he signed a 7-year deal, so he's not going anywhere for the time being, you would think. I'm going to go with the over as well. I'm going to go a little bit more. Let's see. So I can't math in my head. Let's say that's 40, right? So 23. So 22-point increase. So 22 and 63 is 85. That's what I'm going with.
I like it.
Over
I like it.
85. Live math, ladies and gentlemen. That's real tough for me to do as well, unless it's barbell math. But anyways, give me that goalie question. I'm ready for it. And I'm going to laugh if it's the same question that we were doing.
I'm sure it's in the same neighborhood, but this question has to be asked because it's a big question going into this season. You have Flower, who is 38 years old, who played 46 games, 45 of them started, 24, 16, and 4 record. Solid for a 38-year-old Tandy. A living legend like Flower.
One of the best ever. Yep.
The Gus Bus, 24 years old. He's definitely their future. Absolutely their future. Last season plays 39 games, starts 37 of them, 22, 9, and 7 record. Also, very good record.
Solid.
Both of them. Great this year. So Joe,
especially sorry to interrupt you, especially for that workload going from his first 2 seasons where he played in Ottawa of 9 games and 18 games, and all of a sudden, like, essentially doubled plus more the workload.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So.
And that's not even getting into, like, he looked great in the playoffs most of the time. And again, he's playing Dallas, so you can only do but so much against Dallas. But
exactly,
there was games where, like, he was shutting Dallas down. So, like, he did not look like a 24-year-old in there. So the Gus Bus. So, Joe, would you rather continue the trend? They split the workload, both look great, and this year you get out of the first round. You go into the second round. So you finally do it. You get into the second round. Or would you rather go even further into the Western Conference Finals? Fleury doesn't crap the bed, maybe gets hurt, or let's just say Gus definitively takes it this year. It is Gus's net to lose. And he looks great, and you guys get to the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, now that Flower isn't a Penguin anymore, I love him. And also just the appreciation of how amazing of a goaltender he is. But, I mean, his time has passed, so I'm ready to see Gus take over and be the guy in Minnesota because you can say that Talbot was the guy, and yeah, I would agree with that, but really Minnesota hasn't had a guy goaltender in a long time. Maybe even ever, if I can truly say that. Like, I can't even think of his name right now back in when they first came back, or when they entered the league. Dylan.
I'm gonna look it up.
Dylan. He just retired. You got it?
Let's see. Minnesota Wild goalies all time. I'm gonna all-time NHL leaders. This is from Quant Hockey.
Anyway, while you're looking that up, what I was going to say is it's Gus's time, so I would love to see him move forward. And yeah, I mean, getting out of the first round, again, we're talking about losing. I mean, so essentially you're losing the Western Conference Finals, so you're losing to the team that's going to the Stanley Cup. And as we know, the shift has kind of happened where the West Coast is kind of overpowering now. So you're probably losing to the future Stanley Cup champions. So there's nothing to be upset about that. And also, if your young goaltender steps up and gets you there, we love to see that. Flowers in the background to be there if needed. But I believe his time is past. As much as I love Flower now, his time is past. Let's go with Gus.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm all
Dubnyk.
Gus.
Is it Dubnyk?
That's the second name on this list. So I was going to say Backstrom is number 1. Dubnyk is number 2.
Yeah,
Manny Fernandez.
Yeah, I think Dubnyk did way more for the Wild than any of those guys did.
Well, I'm looking at some of these names. You got Rolison, Harding, Kemper. That's your guy.
God.
There's Cam Talbot. Kakinen spent some time there. Josie Theodore spent some time there. Khudobin. Now you're really getting into the weeds.
But you know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like Minnesota's really, maybe when I said that, maybe ever really had a guy that can steal the show. If we think about all-time, like in our generation goaltenders, we just talked about Flower, right? When Flower was at his best, right? Vasilevsky, unstoppable, right?
Marty.
Jonathan Quick when he was unstoppable. Minnesota has not had that guy. So if Gus can be that guy, I'm here for it.
All signs point to him being able to be that guy too. So all aboard the Gus bus. I'm on the Gus bus.
I'm on the Gus bus. Great showing by essentially he's still a rookie. Like those 2 seasons he had in Ottawa, like, yeah, okay, he's in his 4th year now, but really, like, you're playing in Ottawa those seasons that wasn't very competitive. You're playing on a competitive team now. Yeah, you're playing the same teams, but you're playing for a competitive team with some more pressure now. So this is that experience of having this past year. How many games was it? 37 games he started, right?
39, I think, actually.
39 games? Yeah.
39.
39 games he had?
Oh, I'm sorry. It was 39 games played, so he must have came in and relieved Flower a couple times. 37 started.
Well, that makes sense because Flower gave up a couple 8-goal games, but which he's known to do now. My point is, like, those first 2 seasons in Ottawa didn't really count truly. Like, this last season was his first real season in my view. So getting that experience of playing for this Minnesota Wild team that essentially almost won the Central, they were fighting for it. And then having that playoff experience is huge in essentially your quote unquote rookie season in my view. Right. So I hope he does turn out to be the guy for Minnesota Wild's sake.
So I want, before we leave them, I want to tie all this together because, you know, all this praise we're heaping on Gus, it really goes back to the first part of the conversation about this team. Score some goals for the guy, please, because you cannot hope and rely on Gus being an absolute wall back there.
Or Flower,
yeah.
To make them, to have them, they're going to stop every single shot. Like, come on, man. Like, that's not feasible. You know what I mean?
So score some goals for the guys, please.
Yeah, and I don't think that you mentioned it, but Gus had a 2.1 goals against average, 931 save percentage, 3 shutouts.
Yes.
He was standing on his head for you guys. Score some goals.
Yes. There was a lot of games I was watching where I'm like, gee, like Gus won them games. And specifically those 3 shutout games, because I'm pretty sure they were like all 1-0.
Exactly.
So,
and to that point, Flower was 2.85, a little bit higher, 0.90% basically, 0.908. He was standing on his head too. Like, score some
2
goals
shutouts himself. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Again, he's what, 30?
He's 38.
He's 38 years old with still a 90% save percentage. Like, this dude has hold on real quick. Pause. Okay, his first 2 seasons was below 90, but other than that, so 2003 to 2006, he was in the 80%, but since then he's never dipped below 90%. So, like, give the guy some help.
Do it, Minnesota.
Seriously. All right. Okay. Moving on. I'm actually excited to talk about the Montreal Canadiens, an original 6 team. They were close to the bottom last year, riddled with injuries. My question is going to revolve around 2 of their very young guys, Kirby Dach, that came over in a trade from Chicago, and a guy that they drafted, signed Cole Caulfield as a free agent. 2 really young guys, future of this club. And this club, I think, is very bright. We kind of touched on it a little bit before in previous episodes about the Montreal Canadiens. So, Justin, they were 27th in the league last year, the Montreal Canadiens. Okay. So let's say that they have a solid year, injury-ish free, right? They get their big guns back. Plus or minus, over under, finishing 20th in the league this year.
20th in the league.
So they move up 7 spots.
Oh, boy. So I would have to look at like who is ahead of them.
I'll get that for you right now.
Okay, because I like the Habs, and I can't tell if that is just me cheerleading for kind of like when we were talking about Minnesota, like cheerleading for what they can be rather than what they're going to put on the ice.
Okay, so the teams above them, I will go to 20th place. So teams above them, San Jose, Detroit, New York Islanders, Minnesota Wild, Winnipeg Jets, Washington Capitals, Calgary Flames.
A couple of those teams they're better than, I think. I think San Jose is obviously on the way down. Your boys might be. I hope not for you. I hope your boys aren't on the way down.
They're trending down.
But they're probably trending downward, right? But Minnesota's absolutely not. But they might be right at that bubble. So we're giving them the benefit of the doubt of everybody remaining healthy-ish, as healthy as you can expect, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like they literally had essentially more than half their roster was injured last year.
Unfortunately, I think I got to go the under. I think they're going to be markedly better, but I don't know that some of those teams they're going to be able to pass, because the Flames are a bubble team too. Like the Flames could go either way. I feel like the Flames, the Wild could easily go either way. 2 of them, I think they'll be better than for sure. But I think I'm going to go under, and I think I'm going to go at 23 because that's what's screaming at me. They're going to finish 23rd. Well,
yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Really, I mean, we more than likely, like you said, San Jose is going down. But I mean, a team that was beneath them that might be on the uprise is Nashville that we've talked about. That we'll get to probably next week. I think is on the list. We see Detroit trending up. The Isle, it's hard to really say about the Isle. Like they never do anything, but somehow they seem to stay in the mix somehow. And I would say you mentioned Calgary and the Wild are kind of essentially wild cards, if you will, which way they're going to go. I think Winnipeg's in there too. They could very easily drop way below, or somehow they could have a great season and be up above. So
they got rid of PLD, so.
They got rid of PLD, so there's that. But nobody else wants to stay there. So interesting. I'm actually going to go with the under as well. And I do like your 23rd pick, but just for Jeopardy reasons, or maybe it's Price is Right, whatever. I'm going to go 24. I do think they're going to have an increase, a good season, but I don't think they're going to jump that far to 20th.
So I'm sticking with my points related team for the night. So top point getter for the season, Nick Suzuki, played all 82 games, 26 goals, 40 assists, 66 points. Number 2, Joe, Kirby Dach
Yep.
only played 58 games, scored 14 goals, 24 assists, 38 points. The team as a whole, only scored or only got accrued 611 points.
Yeah, it's bad.
So over under
it's bad.
700 points for the Montreal Canadiens next year.
I don't know. I don't know. Okay. Oh man.
These top five. I'll give you the rest of the top five. Cole Caulfield, 46 games played, 26 goals, 10 assists, 36 points. Mike Hoffman's number 4, 67 games played, 14 goals, 20 assists, 34 points. Number 5, Mike Matheson, defenseman, 48 games played, 8 goals, 26 assists, 34 points. But like that is the whole thing, isn't it? Like one guy played all of the games, only one of them.
Yeah. Well, again, like with so many injuries, but you said 700, right?
Yeah. It's a leap of 80 points.
Yeah. I think that's such, I mean, I truly hope that everybody stays healthy and they have a big season, but that's still a huge jump. I got to go under. I am going to give them an increase, but 700 is so much. I'm going to go 60. So I'm going to go 666 points.
Whoa!
I had to.
It just so much depends on them staying on the ice. Like,
I do think that last year was not a fluke in the sense that it didn't happen, but I mean, like just a random occurrence. Like, literally the past 3 seasons have just been like, ugh, since going to the Cup Finals. Like, and again, that was COVID year, so like, did they really go to the Cup Finals?
Right.
But you know what I mean? I just think a lot of things that don't normally happen just happen, and they took the brunt of that. But that's still a big increase. So I'm going 666.
I'm with you. I don't think they reach 700. I'm gonna go a little over you. I'm gonna go 675. I'm hoping because, man, I'm just looking at this. Suzuki's the only guy who played every game.
Mm-hmm.
Next closest, Jonathan Kovacevic. Sure. I don't know. Who played in 77 games, only had 15 points. He's a defenseman. Mm-hmm. So you guys got to stay on the ice, man.
Stay on the ice. So I actually, this is a BarnChirpers first. You can chirp us if we're stupid at BarnChirpers Pod. I actually messed up that question, Justin.
Did you?
When I was looking at last year's standings, I guess I still had goals against or goals for clicked. So those teams that I mentioned are not the ones for that question. So we kind of have to redo this.
Okay.
So I actually put it on points, so it actually makes sense now. So Montreal was actually the 28th team in the league last year, not 27th. Okay. But the teams above them, are Arizona, Philly, Washington, Detroit, St. Louis, Vancouver, and Ottawa. Those are 7 spots. I did 7 spots for the last question because I said 27th to 20th. So 28th to 21st. Over under 21st in the NHL. I'll say those teams again. Arizona, Philadelphia, Washington, Detroit, St. Louis, Vancouver, Ottawa.
So I feel like the only 2 that are definitively trending upwards, at least, are Detroit and Ottawa, right?
I agree.
But are the rest definitively trending downward? I don't know. Arizona has made moves.
Arizona's made moves. I mean, Detroit's made, or we said Detroit's on the uprise. I mean, I think we definitely say that Philly and Washington and St. Louis are trending down.
So, but I mean,
Vancouver's tough too. Again, like we talked about gaslighting a couple weeks ago. Vancouver's a gaslighting team.
They could be anything. Anything could happen out there. So they're the wild card, but like we've already listed 2 teams definitively trending upward and only two trending downward.
Correct.
Again, I think
you said 23rd, right?
Yeah.
So essentially, the last question when I was wrong with the rankings, you brought them up by 4 slots.
Yeah. I think I'm going to hang around that same thing. I'm going to go with 24.
Okay. Same. I'm just going to go 25th like I did last time. So that's the true thing. 24th and 25th is what we're saying. Got it. Okay. Sorry about that. Again, you can chirp us at BarnChirpers Pod. Tell me say Jay is stupid and can't read. That's fine. I'll take that. Okay. We're running long on this first line, so I'm going to get this out to you real quick. We already talked a little bit about Cole Caulfield and Kirby Dach. Real simple. Would you rather? Actually, I need to get some stats for you real quick. Let's make sure I get the right ones. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So, because the would you rather is going to kind of be based on stats here. So you already saw those stats. Maybe they're still in front of you, but Cole Caulfield, 26 goals, 10 assists, 36 points last year. Kirby Dach, whatever it was that you said.
14, 24, 38.
Okay. So now you got the stats. So would you rather Cole Caulfield has a big breakout season or Kirby Dach has a big breakout season? The caveat is whoever has a big season, the other one is going to flop.
All right. I'm going positional here just because you have Suzuki. All 3 of these guys, your top 3 guys are all around the same age. Suzuki's 23, Dach and Caulfield are both 22. Suzuki's your top line center. Dach is probably your second line center. I think I'd rather have Caulfield because then he can slot into that top line with Suzuki, right? And yes. It sucks to lose out on Dach, and he bombs, but you can always get Hoffman. Hoffman's right up there. He's your third line center. He can slot into the second line. So
I think the line is Suzuki, Caulfield, Dach.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah,
man.
I'm pretty sure that's the first line.
So one of them's playing left wing. One of them's got winger eligibility.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Dach slotted in at the right wing slot.
Okay, so I'm still not going to change my answer, even though it doesn't make sense now. But I think because Caulfield's listed as the winger, that's the only way I can make sense of the answer. So give me Caulfield. Actually, Caulfield, they just re-signed to a big contract too, 8 years something, right? Yep. So yeah, that solidifies it. Let me have the breakout from Caulfield.
Yeah, I think so too. You spent the big money on him. I mean, Dach, I would like to see perform well too, considering he came over from Chicago. But I mean, truly, he still has some time to get his mojo, if you will, on the Montreal Canadiens. He's been in the league for a couple of years, but he can afford to have a not so great season, because again, the cream rises to the top. He'll be okay. So I would agree with you too. I'd rather have Caulfield have a big season. Also, that's the sweater that I want to get, is the Cole Caulfield sweater. So,
which one do you want to get? Just the home red?
I think the regular home red. I don't really care for the blue reverse retro.
Oh, really? I like them because it's a.
I mean, maybe if I see it up close, because I do love blue, but yeah, I don't know. Just looking at it, it's the same kind of thing with the mustard cats. I'm just like,
got to see it in person.
But then if I see it in person, I'll be like, oh, okay.
Yeah, Suzuki's the one I want because he wears number 14. So
good call. Yep, there you go.
All right, I'll do an easy one too because we wouldn't be the BarnChirpers without a goalie question.
Gotta give me a goalie question. Give it to me.
So Jake Allen's been the guy, right? He's 32. He played 42 games last year, 41 started, 15, 24, and 3 record. Sam Montembeault was the backup, 26 years old, 40 games played, 39 started, 16, 19, and 3. And I believe they just picked up Jari in the trade.
Yes. Yep. He may or may not still stay on the squad. They might
Yeah, he might just get dumped out. So let's just assume they go with Montembeault and Allen right into the season. Very simple. Would you rather? Would you rather Jake Allen get the majority of the starts and you eke into the playoffs? Right? He has a decent season. You eke into the playoffs at 8. Or would you rather Montembeault slots in at the number 1, has a great season, but you miss the playoffs?
Also, just a little asterisk, it was actually Casey DeSmith, not Jari. Jari signed in Pittsburgh.
That's right. My bad.
DeSmith. But, I mean, I said the same thing. So, okay. So Allen has a good season. They both have a great season, right? Allen has a great season, but you miss.
Allen has a great season, but Allen has a decent season, and they get into the playoffs. But Montembeault has a great season, but you miss the playoffs.
Gotcha. Okay. Ooh, dang, that one's tough. I'm looking at the NHL.com ticker right now, deciding. Let's see. So Montembeault is the younger guy.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see.
They're practically split right down the middle last year with Caden Primo, got a couple, right. two starts.
Well, I think I'm going to go with Montembeault having a great season, but you missed the playoffs because, I mean, again, we covered they were in 28th place. So we don't necessarily, I mean, yeah, we'd love to have, if we have all our guys healthy this year, I feel like the expectations are to at least progress, but I don't feel like the expectation is to make the playoffs this year or even next year. I feel like it's just to progress, right?
Mm-hmm.
Montembeault's the younger guy, so I feel like you're looking at him longer term. And I'm also looking at Jake Allen's past. His best season was in 16-17 where he had 33 wins, but he also had 25 losses. So, he's never really been a great goaltender in the sense of having a lot more wins than losses, comparably, right?
Right.
So I feel like I'd rather have Montembeault break out because that's going to help his confidence. That's going to help us with this young goaltender that essentially we're probably molding and trying to keep to replace that Carey Price hole, right? Eventually, than Jake Allen. And Jake Allen, I think, is a decent goaltender, but I think he's probably better set as a backup than the main guy.
I'm lockstep with you, man. I would give me the young day all day, every day. You miss the playoffs, which means lower draft pick, which is what it's all going to be about. And especially for this team, like you mentioned, sure you want to get in the playoffs, but who is Montreal beating if they get in? Like it's
in the East, that's good luck, man.
It's one thing to see Florida eke in at 8 and get all the way to the Cup. But they won the President's Cup the year before. Like that was still a quality club getting put on the ice.
There's what we talked about, like having them jump 3 or 4 spots, very, very easy. That can definitely happen. But especially in the Atlantic, you're going to jump Detroit, Ottawa, Buffalo, and Florida. And possibly Boston. That might be on the bottom half of the Atlantic.
Yeah. Nah, man. Yeah. So yeah, let's set up the future and let's see the kid look great. And hey, if you have a good young that is a good young core going into next season, maybe you attract some names to come play defense.
Yeah, we talked about that when we talked about the Kraken after they lost in the playoffs. You know what I mean? So yeah, fully agree. It's just such a young squad. Like I said on the I'll shout out Gear Freaks when we talked about Detroit last week, and I shout out Gear Freaks saying that I said in 3 to 5 Detroit would be a cup contender, and we're in like the 3rd year now. I will say this right now. I think Montreal will at least be a playoff contender in 3 to 5 from now.
Yeah, I agree.
So 26, 27, playoff contender.
Let's get these, let's get these guys on the ice. Let me see what those guys can do on the ice with a full season. So
for sure,
we love you, Habs.
I just saw the hand raise up. I think we're going to man up.
Woo! Let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's drop that puck. Let's be a man up. So Justin, we've said on this show already today, and everybody get ready to take a shot or a drink of whatever you're drinking. If it's just water, that's great too. Let's talk real quickly because we're going long on this episode. Let's talk about mediocre. Let's talk about mediocre at best players. Let's talk about the mediocre, PLD, of course, that we talked about earlier. Let's talk about Auston Matthews for a second.
Woof.
Justin, Auston Matthews just signed an extension with the Toronto Maple Leafs for 4 years for $13.252 million, Justin.
I don't think you guys can see that, but that is the image.
And currently, Matthews, for this remaining contract year, he is making $11.640 million. So you're telling me that you gave this guy a $2.5 million increase for what? For consistently not showing up when it counts, for consistently blowing it in the playoffs, for not putting up any type of numbers that a superstar making $13.25 million should be putting up? I ask you, what in the world is going on in the world of sport when we reward these players that don't win when they're supposed to win, don't show up when they're supposed to show up? And I'll let you answer. I know I'm talking over you. But there's a caveat to this too. This doesn't just revolve around hockey. This goes across all sports like football, baseball, basketball. These guys making millions and millions of dollars to put up C- C to C+ work. It kills me and annoys the heck out of me. Go on.
I understand the catch-22 of it, right? Because Auston Matthews does put up points, like he's
in the regular season, yeah.
Right. So like, if you're Toronto, do you let that guy walk? Like you can't let him walk. But at the same time, man, like, how are you as Auston Matthews going to press to get a $2 million per year raise when the best you've done was this past year, getting past the first round? Like, how? And then we mentioned this when we were going through the playoffs. This is Mr. Sourpuss. I was trying to look for a photo for the thumbnail for this. Every photo of Auston Matthews looks like he's completely unenthused, no matter what he's doing.
That's how he plays too.
This is the guy that you're paying. Look, again, point getter in the regular season. I get it. But shouldn't you hold those big contracts for when you actually lift a cup? Because isn't that what you want in hockey?
That's literally all. And I'll say again, I've never played in the NHL, but that's all we play for, is to hoist the Stanley Cup. Every single interview that any NHL player has ever said in an interview when they're asked about something regarding the Stanley Cup, everything they say is, I just want to hoist the Stanley Cup. That is my childhood dream, hoist the Stanley Cup. So that is literally all that matters in the NHL. And I fully agree, is to hoist the Stanley Cup. Not only am I'm kind of infuriated, even though I don't give any craps about Toronto. Honestly, I really don't. But I guess I'm trying to see through all of the BS here, because guys like Auston Matthews talk about how much he wants to win and how bad he wants to stay in Toronto and he loves Toronto and yada yada yada. Bro, Toronto currently right now has a $96.7 million cap hit. They are $13.2 million over the cap right now. If you want to win so bad, if you want to stay in Toronto so bad and win and hoist a cup so bad, why don't you take a team-friendly deal so you can actually get some players to help you win the Stanley Cup?
Who's
like
playing
maybe
defense?
A goaltender.
Yeah. Because didn't you lose Mustache Murray? Like, I think he's hanging him up. Not that he was great, but like he was the 1A last year. Sammy's not getting it done. We've talked about Sammy ad nauseam, and we're focusing on the Leafs because Matthews was the big signing. But that list you sent me, the top 10 for 24-25, there's 3 Leafs in this list.
Yeah.
Auston Matthews is number 1. John Tavares is number 8 at 11 a year, and number 9 is Marner at 10.9 a year.
Those 3 guys make up almost half of the salary cap for that team.
That's
almost
crazy.
Half. Matthews cap hit, his new cap hit next year will make up like 16% of the cap.
You've got to at least get to the cup now, right? Like now the pressure's on, right?
You would think so. Again, I don't have a dog in the race. I hope Toronto continues to fail like they have failed over and over and over again, because then this is just even more hilarious that you're paying this guy so much money for a crap return. Again, you're giving me C+ vibes right now, Auston Matthews, for the last 8 years, and you do not deserve $13.25 million. You deserve like maybe 4, in my view. And honestly, so I want to carry this over. There was Daily Faceoff posted this picture of Nathan McKinnon, Auston Matthews, and Connor McDavid when they were young, early in the league. And it said the 3 highest paid players in the NHL. And I commented on that. And boy, I actually hate commenting on social media. I don't know why I continue to do it sometimes and all I said was 1 out of 3 are worth it. And I'm not going to say this person's name, but this person decided to say 2, Mac and Connor. And I said, oh, and how many cups has Connor won? I'll wait. And he said, terrible grammar too. If not, look at cups. And it's only 1 cup out of the 3. It's still Mac and Connor that are worth every penny. And I said, yeah, you're right. They definitely play in the NHL just for fun. Who gives a crap about winning the greatest championship? To which he replied, like I said, if we aren't talking about cups, both of them are worth every penny. And then I said in capital letters, the whole argument is only about the cup. And my point of this saying that McKinnon has won a Stanley Cup. Yeah. So his $12.6 million is being paid, worth every penny, worth every single penny. He has proven it. He proves it in the regular season by putting that team on his back when everybody else is injured. He gets that while they didn't win last year, but the year before when he still didn't really have a whole lot of help, put the team on his back, made it to the Stanley Cup, and they won. He's worth every penny of that $12.6 million. Going back to Auston Matthews, not worth a dang, in my view. Honestly, Connor McDavid, worth getting paid $12.5. While I will give Connor McDavid some slack because arguably the greatest player alive right now, he puts it up in the regular season. He puts it up and he shows up in the playoffs. You can't expect him to stop the pucks also. So I don't blame Connor McDavid for that because he does show up as a superstar every single game, every single time. I will say I'm not as frustrated with how much he gets paid. However, my argument still stands. Hasn't won a cup, so 12.5, I don't know. That's a lot of money for not winning a cup.
How many on this 10 have won a cup? Doughty, Pasta.
Pasta wasn't on the team when they won.
Oh. Okay, so
nope.
McKinnon.
I don't believe so.
McKinnon, obviously. Doughty. Yeah, because Marner, Tavares. Yeah, so 2 out of 10.
2 out of 10.
Woof. Yeah. Well, there you go.
2 out of 10 on the highest paid NHL players. That is just crazy to me. That's pretty much all I really have for that. It's the across the board though. I mean, I don't know players and I don't know much about football or basketball or baseball, but those guys are making crazy amount of money comparably to the NHL. And the same thing still stands to me, though. Like, getting paid so much money to do what?
To do what? And I'll tag this, and then we can pull the goalie. To your point, I'm a New York Metropolitans fan in baseball. These last 2 seasons, we paid big money to land Max Scherzer last year, and Justin Verlander this year. Max Scherzer had a great regular season last year, but when it mattered in the playoffs against the San Diego Padres, crap the bed, and the Mets lose in the playoffs, and then goes into this season, has an okay first half, gets dealt to the Rangers. He's gone. He's off the club. Verlander comes in, promptly stinks, looks his age. He's off the club too. Just saying.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
win when it matters.
We're coming over to baseball real quick, but as a Detroit Tigers fan, Verlander has never showed up when it mattered. So, we are the BarnChirpers at BarnChirpers Pod, talking about hockey. But anyway,
you want to pull the keep here? It looks like
let's try to get another goal in here as the last few minutes here of this wonderful podcast that we've gone on now for almost an hour and a half. It's all for you, though, folks. So hopefully this is a good conversation. Honestly, hopefully you've enjoyed this, whether you're watching on the YouTubes or you're listening on whatever streaming platform you're listening on. Please give us a like, a share, a review. Follow the Norfolk Admirals too. And tell them that we sent you. That would be great for us. So we thank you for listening or watching and letting us ramble and talk about hockey for an hour and a half. Anyway,
indeed.
Coach says pull the goalie.
So I was speaking with a goalie. Like I just want to mention this because he was supposed to be the guy that was supposed to back up and push Mackenzie Blackwood last season. Yep. Jonathan Bernier has officially retired from the NHL.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really truly know a whole lot about him. I know he's been on at least 6 or 7 teams, though. So he's been kind of like a journeyman goalie, which I do believe, I guess, correct me if I'm wrong, if you have any stats or anything in front of you, but he's essentially been, like that veteran presence on every team to, try to, come in when he's needed and stop the puck you're supposed to stop, which is all we ever ask of goaltenders, just stop the puck you're supposed to stop. I think he's had a pretty solid career, though. I mean, he spent most of his time in Detroit, if I'm not mistaken.
That's who we got him from. And he came in, Mac promptly got hurt, so he ended up being the starter, and then he got hurt, and then Dawes came in. So, and then
the caseload, man. I mean, it's changing times, of the volume. So.
Yep. So wish him well. I don't wish ill on the guy. Even
no, definitely not. Hopefully he saved some money and has another avenue after hockey, because that's also a real quick thing just across the board too in all sports, is like guys that make some money and just blow it all and don't have anything saved up and then end up going down bad roads after you don't have the game that you played your whole life to play anymore. So hopefully he has got some money saved up and some plans after.
Another one you had put in here. I think this is a funny way because this tags on to our for what conversation.
For what?
Laffy signs a 2-year deal extension with the Rangers. Why?
For what? It's like 2.6, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
Dude. I mean, I just don't understand.
Like, I get you don't want to give up on the guy yet, but like he hasn't done anything yet to warrant an extension.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be curious to see if they try to deal Capo Caco, or if they're going to re-sign him too, because again, those two guys haven't done anything. So why are you spending the money on them? And the rate, I mean, I don't know. I think it's safe to say the Rangers have gotten worse.
Yeah, I think they're trending downward. They lost Tarasenko, which, not that was like a huge get for them, but I mean, as long as you have Shesterkin back there, like it's still a dangerous club to play. But
True,
We beat them last season. I mean, it took 7 games to do it, but the Rangers should have beat us. We were young and inexperienced. We shouldn't have won that series, and they were working us. But that you play the game on the ice, and the Rangers didn't. So there you go.
Woof to the New York Rangers. And yeah, just woof. I mean, woof. Do we got anything else?
Just briefly, the Arizona Coyotes have signed Andre Tourigny.
Yeah. So he's been the coach. That's right. Because I sent that. I mean, I think this is a solid play by the Arizona Coyotes. Keep that same coach. Keep the same style of play, the same game plan, everything. You seemingly are making moves for something. Keep the same head coach in place. I think this is a great move by the organization. Like, if you're actually going to do something and move forward, this is a positive step in the right direction.
Agreed.
You continually change coaches, you're changing systems. Then the guys have to learn that system. They have to mesh together in that new system. Like, it's hard enough bringing new guys in, which they've done, which we've complimented them on. So that's going to be hard enough. Like, this is great to keep the same coach, keep that same system.
Just like we did with Lindy Ruff. Like, you got to see if the system works with better players. And, if you get the better players in and this guy just can't get it done, like, to the next level, that's when you make the move.
Yeah. I mean, he's got 3 more years to prove if he can make any type of progress. So go with that. I feel like we're too quick to pull the trigger. Like, that's not working. We're out.
Yeah.
Like, give it a minute at least.
A second, God.
Yeah. Especially, again, talking about the Arizona Coyotes, a team that has not done really anything in years. So, like, you're finally actually putting some pieces in to maybe have a serviceable team on the ice. Like, okay, let's give a coach now a chance to coach and, see what he's going to do. So, yeah, I think that's a great move. So, when did we become Arizona Coyotes fans, by the way?
It was
I feel like we talked about the Arizona Coyotes like 3 weeks ago, and yet we mentioned them on every single episode.
Yeah. They brought the Cucinas back last season, and they've been on my radar.
It's all about the Cucina, baby. I love the Cucina. So next week is, I think, going to be a pretty special episode because we're going to be talking about your boys, Justin. Would you rather and over under? We have the show's team, the Nashville Predators, the Mustard Cats, the New Jersey Devils, and the New York Islanders and the New York Rangers. I can't wait to talk about 2 out of the 4 of those teams.
Yes.
And the other 2 of the 4, I might just...
It'll be tough, but we'll get through it.
I'm going to really try to research and come up with solid questions other than something that's just not stupid. I am going to really, really attempt to do that. So thank you again, everybody listening, watching. Follow us at BarnChirpers Pod. Give us a like, give us a subscribe. 5-star rating would be great. We'll be back next week with that talk on Nashville, New Jersey, New York. And hopefully you enjoyed this episode. So shout out once again to the Norfolk Admirals of the ECHL. And with nothing else, stick taps and sellies, boys. Clap it up.
Clap it up and hit the end.